Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome to another episode of Fittest Car Mods. Today we're still working on my 2018 F150. We're going to be installing a CB radio. Elk season is coming up and I hunt in an area that has active logging in it, so I need to make sure I've got a CB radio to make sure that I can listen to all the logging trucks that are coming down the roads and I don't get run over by one. Because, I mean, big truck, okay, not really that big of a truck, but pickup truck versus logging truck, pickup truck is going to lose. So, what I have here is jumper cables, because that's cheap wire. Cobra 19DX4, 14 gauge wire, 16 gauge wire. I use Anderson power pole connectors on all of my projects because they are genderless. We'll be running the big wire in from the battery at the front of the truck into somewhere underneath the passenger seat, and that will plug in with the larger connectors into this little power strip here. That will go from the power strip to this and this, which I finally will be getting permanently installed into the truck. Now, I could have gotten the 400 watt inverter from the factory. I opted to accept a truck that did not have that from the factory because I got a 1000 watt inverter for a lot cheaper price, and the install isn't really that big of a hassle. And that will also go, if I can fit it, it's going to go underneath the passenger seat. If not, then I'm going to have to get some heavier gauge wire to run back behind the rear seat here. So, going to get first I'm going to find my words, and I'm going to get going on the install of this. Oh, I forgot. We have an antenna mount. This antenna mount is a special one made by NCG, which I believe is Comet, and it bolts right, goes on this bolt right here, and then sticks out right like that. And then the antenna, which is, I believe this is a Larson, will go right here and stick up like that. Let's get going. All right. I'm thinking what I want to do. Get out. Or I think this is just going to get mounted right like that, and the hand mic can drop in. That leaves plenty of room for the tray. Let's see what happens when I do this. I think that's gonna work quite dandy. That's a problem. Shoot. Alright, well, y'all have seen what I've done so far. I'm going to pause the recording here. I'll come back when I'm done. You can see I've got it sitting at a little bit of an angle here. That will keeps the wire clear of this, so the lid can close. So the microphone wire is clear. I can also very easily run the microphone wire up through here. close the lid. And have the microphone out and easy to access. And still, I can see the screen, and I'll be able to adjust the channel and everything as needed. My tray still fits, and all the other stuff that goes in here normally will still be able to go in there. So I guess next is the antenna mount. All right, now we're going to mount the bracket here. It's going to go on the bolt that's right back behind, underneath the plastic right here. So right like that, but below the plastic. All right, there we go. I think that'll work. Now we're taking our coax cable here, which the antenna uses what's called an NMO connector. Feed that up through there. Put the top part of the connector on. I'll have this go back that direction there. All right, now that I have the mount all installed, still don't have the wiring run, we'll do that next, but going to get the antenna installed here. Now when you're doing, when you're installing an antenna, okay, so when you get an antenna, it's going to come with what's called a tuning chart, and it is going to tell you how long you need to trim the antenna in order for you to, in order for the antenna to be tuned properly for the vehicle. If you were to just drop this in like that and call it good, then it won't be tuned properly and you'll get high standing wave ratio. There's lots of videos on how antennas and radios work on the internet. I'm not going to do a class on that, but long story short, you want to look at the frequency that you're going to be transmitting on and trim, measure from this point right here down to this end, cut it off, sand the powder coating off before you actually install it into the set screws. Like if you're installing a CB radio, you're going to want to look up the frequencies, and it'll pull up a chart that looks similar to this. So it looks like it's anywhere from 26.96 megahertz to 27.405 megahertz. So right in the center of that, I have 27.0 megahertz and 27.5 megahertz, 47 inches. My target is 27.2 megahertz. So I'm gonna come over here to the hood and trunk mount side and look between 27.5 and 27.0, 47.5 and 45 3/4. So I'm going to cut this about 46 inches, and that should, because I don't have a spring, so 46 inches should put me right where I need to be between 47.5 and 45 3/4. 6. Come on. Try that again. So right there is where I'm going to cut this. I'll be right back. Perfect, exactly 46 inches. Now I'm going to take my file, take the file, remove the powder coating, oh, come on, like so. Remove the powder coating and put it into the base of the antenna.
And there we go. CB antenna is installed.
All right, the next task is to take the coax and run it into the firewall. You can see right here, there's a grommet that's got a little kind of nipple thing on the top of it. I'm gonna poke a hole in that nipple. I've already checked both sides to make sure that it'll go through, and it will. I'm gonna feed this end of the coax through. This is not the connector that plugs into the radio. This is just an easy to feed connector. It's called an FME connector. Everything that you see here, I purchased at Ham Radio Outlet. They know their stuff about radios. We'll put it that way. They mostly sell ham radio stuff, but they do sell CB radios. They do not do installs. They only sell products. You have to install it yourself. But they've got stuff like this that you're not gonna find at a truck stop or at a CB shop. It makes it really, really, really easy to install. You don't have to futz around with bolts and all kinds of other random connectors. It's really, really easy. Grief. All right, so you see I've got the coax cable going down and into that hole right there, right above the wiring harness, and it comes in to the truck. Comes into the truck right above that wiring harness right there. That's where it comes in. And right now it's just a pile of wires on the floor, but I'm going to run it underneath the floor mat, up through the center, up underneath the center console, up into the center console here, and plug it into the back of the radio down underneath here. It'll probably pop up right down here in this corner right here, so I'll put it through. Now time to start feeding the power cable in. Same process as the other one, but on the other side. There's another grommet. It needs to have the face cut off of it. Just to forewarn you, if you're gonna push a wire through this grommet here, it comes out way up behind the very back of the dashboard. And unless you got small girly hands like I do, you're not gonna get your hand up in there to find it. I had to push it in. I mean, it's probably about the 50% point, and I've got 2.5 feet out here, 2.5 feet. Yeah, so I had to push it in that far before I could actually get my hands on the wire. So now I'm gonna use the fish wire, which I just stripped out of regular household wire, to pull the main wire through, and hopefully this works. That seriously took me 2 hours to get this piece of fish wire through. And here's the handle that I used to pull it. Actually, let me see if I can. There's the handle that I used to pull the wire through. What a ginormous pain in the butt that was. looks like I'll have just enough wire here to get it back underneath the passenger seat. Thank you, Ford, for doing something right. Holy cow. That is convenient. So no, I did not put a fuse in line there. I will at some point. I just don't have one on hand right now, and I've got to get this done because running that wire took about 2 hours longer than I anticipated it would. So I'm going to continue working on everything else. Everything under the hood is done now, except that I still haven't plugged in the wire or hooked the wire up to the battery. But everything else is done. I'm gonna wait till I'm done with the inside wiring to hook that wire up to the battery. Now it's just a matter of running all of the smaller wires to the power block, getting the ground cable hooked up underneath the seat, and I guess just testing out the CB and the inverter, because those are the last two things. So I'm on the home stretch here. That just took me for freaking ever getting that one part done. Back to work. All right, finally got this figured out. So what I did is I unclipped the panel. It's still screwed in at the front, but I unclipped the side panel. You can see I've got my fish wire coming out right here. It goes up into here. I can get some light on the situation. And it comes out, I drilled a hole right there in the bottom of the center console. So I run the antenna and the power cables right through there, and then that will be that step complete. It took me about an hour to figure out how I was going to do that. It took me about 20 minutes, 15 minutes to fish the wire from the inside of the center console back to the outside right there where it comes out. And what I did is I ended up sticking my finger up inside where that wire's coming out right there, and feeling around for it as I was jiggling the wire around inside of the center console to get it to go through. But it does go through there. Wasn't too terribly painful. Not nearly as bad as the power cable on the other side of the truck. This thing recording. Oh, yes it is. All right. Okay. Now that I have this wire fished through, I'm going to put on the connector. Now this is the big advantage to using the FME connectors.
because they're really easy to assemble.
Usually when you're building coax cable, you've got to either do a solder on or a crimp on connection. But with these FME cables, all you do, slide this on there, and then tighten down the jam nut. And that's that. It's all ready to use. That is plugged in. Pull this excess wire back out of the center console. And that is that. Now that I have the excess wire pulled out of the center console, I'm just going to bunch it up and shove it up underneath the console right here, and that will keep the excess out of the way. All right, I'm sorry I'm not doing quite as much filming on the tail end of this project here, but as you can see, the sun is getting kind of low in the sky, and I gotta get this done. We've also got somewhere that we have to be later tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna follow basically the same process that I did for the coax cable of fishing it through the side there. I'm gonna do that for the power cable as well, and get that knocked out really quick, and that's probably gonna be the end of my day as soon as I get that all wired up, because I already have the power inverter wired up and the coax run. So once I get power to the CB and then the power cable hooked up to the battery, then that will be the last thing that I have left to do today. Gonna get back to work here on wiring up the CB radio, get the power wires all ran, and see if I can't get this project closed out. Inverter works. All right, well, in theory, that also works. So that just about does it for this project. Today got the, in the last episode, got the skid plates installed. And then in this episode, got the CB radio and the inverter all wired up inside of the truck. That way they're always usable. Down the road, I'm going to also install a ham radio into the center console as well. I'm just going to use the same antenna cable for that and just have a switch to go between the ham radio and the CB radio and swap out the antennas as needed. For the most part, there will not be an antenna mounted on the antenna mount. That is going to, I'll just put a cap on the actual mount itself. Thanks for watching this episode of Fittest Car Mods. Hopefully you learned something and enjoyed it. Let me know if you want to see any changes in format, or if you have any suggestions as to things that I can do better, because I am fairly new to this whole YouTube thing and I am constantly looking to improve anything, be it in my profession or in my hobby, which is vehicles, fishing, hunting, and YouTube. Thanks for watching. Have a good one, guys. Bye.